two men born in different worlds, driven by opposite dreams, would one day battle for the soul of the modern age. One was a master of industry, a man who turned invention into an empire. The other was a dreamer, a visionary whose imagination reached beyond the horizon of human understanding. Their weapon was not a sword or fire, but electricity itself. Their battleground was the future. Theirs was not just a rivalry of technology. It was a war of philosophy, of how humanity would shape its destiny. One believed that progress should be owned, controlled, and sold. The other believed it should be free, shared, and limitless. When these two collided, the world would never be the same again. This is not just the story of invention. It is the story of obsession, betrayal, and the price of genius. It is a story hidden beneath the hum of every light bulb, every current that flows through our cities. The war that sparked the modern world was fought not with violence, but with ideas. This is the untold story of Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, and the war of light that changed everything. At the turn of the 19th century, the world stood on the edge of transformation. The streets were lit by gas lamps, the nights were long and dark, and the sound of horse hooves still echoed through cobblestone cities. Yet, beneath this familiar rhythm of the old world, something extraordinary was beginning to stir. A quiet hum was rising, a new kind of energy that promised to conquer the night and change the course of civilization forever. Electricity. Invisible, powerful, and alive. For centuries, humanity had marveled at lightning, wondering how to capture the fire of the heavens. Now, two men believed they could harness it. One was Thomas Edison, a self-taught inventor from America, a man who embodied the industrial spirit of a young nation. He was relentless, practical, and ambitious, a symbol of the belief that hard work and persistence could create anything. The other was Nikola Tesla, a brilliant dreamer from the Balkans, a man whose mind reached into realms others could not see. To him, electricity was not just power but poetry, a living force that could connect all things. Their meeting would ignite one of the greatest rivalries in history. It was not simply a struggle over how the world would be powered. It was a deeper conflict, one that revealed two visions of humanity's future. Edison saw electricity as a commodity, something to be controlled and sold to the masses. Tesla saw it as a gift from nature, one that could be shared freely across the globe. In their battle, money clashed with imagination, and invention became a weapon. As their lives intertwined, their stories reflected the very essence of progress itself. Edison built his fame through persistence and showmanship, mastering the art of publicity and profit. Tesla lived in the shadows of his own brilliance, misunderstood and often betrayed. Together, they embodied the eternal tension between innovation and control, between the dream of freedom and the reality of greed. This story is not just about who invented the light bulb or who won the war of currents. It is about how the modern world came to be shaped by ambition, by obsession, and by two men whose ideas reached beyond their time. It is a story of triumph and tragedy, of a genius forgotten and an empire remembered. Tonight, we step into the flickering glow of history's first electric light. We will follow its current through the hearts and minds of two extraordinary men. Their struggle would not only illuminate the world but reveal the price of progress itself. The war of light was not fought in darkness, but in the dazzling glare of human ambition. And when it was over, only one vision would define the century to come. The story of Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison begins not in laboratories or grand exhibitions, but in two vastly different worlds that shaped who they would become. In the mid-19th century, deep in the rolling hills of Smiljan, a small village in what is now Croatia, a child was born during a thunderstorm. As lightning tore through the night sky, his mother whispered that he would one day harness the power of those same bolts that illuminated his birth. His name was Nikola Tesla. From the very beginning, Tesla's mind seemed touched by something otherworldly. As a boy, he saw images and flashes of light, vivid visions that often blurred the line between imagination and reality. While others saw the world as solid and certain, Tesla saw it as a field of unseen forces, vibrating with potential. His father was a priest, a man of faith and language. His mother, though uneducated, was an inventor in her own right, crafting devices for their home with nothing but intuition and skill. From her, Tesla inherited not only his curiosity, but a belief that invention was an act of creation, almost spiritual in nature. He grew up fascinated by the mysteries of nature, obsessed with understanding how the invisible could be made visible. Electricity became his obsession long before he could even name it. Across the ocean, in the industrial heartland of America, another child grew up with a very different view of the world. Thomas Alva Edison was born in Milan, Ohio, in 1847. His childhood was marked by curiosity and constant motion. He was not a scholar. Teachers dismissed him as slow and inattentive. His mother pulled him out of school, believing her son's mind was too restless for the rigid classroom. She taught him at home, feeding his hunger for learning. Where Tesla's imagination was shaped by philosophy and visions, Edison's was built from practicality and perseverance. He sold newspapers on trains, built his first chemistry lab in his parents' basement, and nearly burned the house down experimenting with chemicals. Every failure was a lesson. Every mistake became a stepping stone. Edison learned by doing, by breaking, by rebuilding. He wasn't born a genius. He forged himself into one through sheer willpower. By the time Tesla was dreaming of machines that could draw energy from the air, Edison was already making his mark as an inventor and entrepreneur. His early creations, like the phonograph and the telegraph improvements, earned him both fame and fortune. He believed invention was not about beauty or purity of design, but about utility. If something worked, it was worth building. If it made money, it was worth keeping. Tesla, on the other hand, saw invention as a sacred pursuit. He once wrote that his brain was merely a receiver, that ideas came to him from a higher source, a frequency beyond human understanding. Edison would have scoffed at that. For him, genius was 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. 2 men, 2 worlds, 2 philosophies. One believed in the divine nature of science, the other in the relentless grind of industry. They would never see eye to eye, yet they were destined to shape the same world. Their journeys, born from opposite ends of the earth, would converge in the same moment in time, in the same city, and ignite a rivalry that would define an era. Before the light filled the world, there was darkness. In that darkness, 2 minds began to dream, one of freedom, the other of control. And soon, those dreams would collide with a force as powerful as lightning itself. In the summer of 1884, a thin, sharp-featured man stepped off a ship from Europe and onto the bustling shores of New York Harbor. He carried little more than a letter of recommendation, 4 cents in his pocket, and a dream that glowed brighter than any lamp yet invented. His name was Nikola Tesla. The letter he carried was addressed to none other than Thomas Edison, the man already hailed as the greatest inventor of the modern world. Tesla was awestruck by America. The city pulsed with motion, alive with industry, smoke, and ambition. Everywhere he looked, he saw energy waiting to be harnessed. He believed that in this new world, a man with ideas could change everything. When he finally met Edison, it felt as though 2 worlds had collided. Edison was direct, confident, and unrefined. Tesla was reserved, eloquent, and visionary. One spoke in sparks and circuits, the other in dreams and light. Yet, for a brief moment, it seemed they might work together to shape the future. Edison hired Tesla to work for his company, Edison Machine Works, a vast operation producing dynamos, lighting systems, and motors. Tesla threw himself into the work, designing improvements that made Edison's machines far more efficient. His mind moved faster than his tools could keep up. He worked day and night, sleeping little, driven by a belief that together, they could electrify the world. But the 2 men saw the world through different eyes. Edison championed direct current, or DC power, a system he had already invested millions into. It was simple, predictable, and profitable, but it had one fatal flaw. DC power could not travel far without losing strength, making it inefficient for large-scale distribution. Tesla knew there was a better way. His experiments with alternating current, or AC, showed that electricity could be sent over vast distances, pulsing back and forth in waves, powerful and efficient. It was elegant. It was the future. One day, Tesla proposed his vision to Edison. He explained how AC could revolutionize power systems, how it could light entire cities with a single generator. Edison, set in his ways, dismissed the idea outright. He called it impractical, even dangerous. He had already built his empire on DC power, and change meant risk. Then came the breaking point. Tesla had been promised $50,000 if he could redesign Edison's generators to improve efficiency. Months later, after delivering exactly what was asked, Tesla approached Edison to collect his reward. Edison laughed. "You don't understand our American humor," he said. "When you become a full-fledged American, you'll appreciate a good joke." For Tesla, it was no joke. It was betrayal. The dream of collaboration shattered. Tesla left the company, walking away from a man he had once admired. For weeks, he struggled to survive, digging ditches for $2 a day just to eat. The streets that had once glimmered with promise now seemed cold and cruel. Yet even in those darkest moments, the vision inside him never dimmed. He knew he was right. He knew the world needed a new kind of energy. And though Edison's empire loomed large, Tesla began to prepare for a different kind of battle. The war of currents was about to begin, and it would determine who would control the light of the modern world. By the late 1880s, America was ablaze with possibility. Electric light was no longer a dream but a miracle that glowed in the streets of New York. Factories worked through the night, cities no longer slept, and power was the new gold. Yet beneath the glittering surface, a storm was brewing. Two systems of electricity were competing for dominance, and their creators, Edison and Tesla, were locked in a struggle that would shape the future of civilization. Edison, now a titan of industry, had built his empire on direct current. DC was steady and controllable, the kind of system a businessman could measure and profit from. But it had limits. Power could only travel a mile or two before fading, requiring endless wires, generators, and stations. It was a system that worked for control, not convenience. Tesla's alternating current was different. It pulsed like a heartbeat, flowing in waves that could travel hundreds of miles with minimal loss. It was efficient, elegant, and revolutionary. With AC, electricity could be produced in one place and delivered to countless homes, cities, and industries far away. But to Edison, it was a threat, not an innovation. He saw AC not as progress, but as the end of everything he had built. When Tesla found an ally in George Westinghouse, a wealthy industrialist with a vision for a more connected world, the balance began to shift. Westinghouse saw the genius in Tesla's designs and offered him a partnership that would change everything. He purchased Tesla's AC patents and began building a system to bring this new form of power to the world. For the first time, Tesla's ideas had the financial and industrial backing to challenge Edison's empire. Edison did not take it quietly. He launched a public campaign against AC, one that would stain his legacy forever. Through demonstrations, pamphlets, and fear tactics, he sought to convince the public that AC was deadly, unstable, and unsafe. He hired agents to stage gruesome public experiments, electrocuting animals with alternating current to show its supposed danger. Newspapers ran headlines warning of the deadly current. It was propaganda at its most ruthless. Edison, once celebrated as the hero of light, became its manipulator. He even supported the invention of the electric chair, a grim device powered by AC, to further associate Tesla's system with death. The message was clear: Edison's DC was safe, Tesla's AC could kill. But the truth could not be silenced. Engineers, scientists, and investors began to see that AC was superior in every measurable way. It was not death that traveled through its wires, but the future itself. As cities grew and distances widened, the need for efficient long-range power became undeniable. The press dubbed it the War of Currents, but it was more than a technological feud. It was a philosophical battle between two visions of progress. Edison believed in control, in systems owned and managed by corporations. Tesla dreamed of abundance, of free power that could be transmitted through the air to every home, every village, every soul. As the tension escalated, so did the stakes. Both men raced to prove their systems could power entire cities. Contracts worth millions hung in the balance. In boardrooms and laboratories, wires sparked and tempers flared. The world watched as these two forces of nature collided, one representing the old world of industry, the other the new dawn of innovation. And then, in 1893, the world would witness a moment that would change everything. The Chicago World's Fair was about to open, and the contract to illuminate it would go to the man who could light up the future. For Edison, it was a chance to cement his empire. For Tesla, it was his opportunity to show the world what true power looked like. The war that began in the shadows was about to be fought in the brightest light imaginable. In the spring of 1893, the city of Chicago prepared to unveil the greatest spectacle the modern world had ever seen, the World's Columbian Exposition. It was a celebration of progress, of invention, of humanity's triumph over nature. And at its heart stood one question: who would power it? Edison's company, now part of the massive General Electric conglomerate, submitted its bid to light the fair with direct current. But George Westinghouse, armed with Nikola Tesla's alternating current technology, entered the competition with a proposal that was not only more powerful but far cheaper. When the fair's organizers opened the envelopes, the decision was unanimous. Westinghouse and Tesla had won. For Edison, it was a humiliating blow. For Tesla, it was vindication. The man once mocked as a dreamer would now illuminate the world stage. As night fell over the fairgrounds, a crowd of thousands gathered in awe. Then, with the pull of a single switch, more than 200,000 light bulbs burst to life. The fairgrounds glowed in a radiant sea of white light, bathing the faces of the onlookers in astonishment. For the first time in human history, a city had been brought to life by pure, artificial power. The effect was nothing short of magical. People gasped and wept. They said it was like watching the heavens descend upon earth. Newspapers called it the City of Light, a beacon of modern civilization. And at the center of it all stood Nikola Tesla, quiet, composed, and triumphant. He had done it. He had given humanity a glimpse of its electrified future. But victory came with a silent price. Behind the dazzling lights, George Westinghouse was under immense financial strain. His company had poured vast sums into the AC infrastructure, and competitors were squeezing him with legal and economic pressure. Westinghouse came to Tesla with an impossible request. To save his company, he needed Tesla to give up the royalties he was owed, royalties that, if paid in full, would have made Tesla one of the richest men in history. Tesla listened carefully. He knew the value of his patents, but he also knew what was at stake. The dream was never about wealth, it was about progress. Without hesitation, he tore up the contract and released Westinghouse from his obligation. "You have given me your faith," he said. "Now I give you mine." That single act would define Tesla's life: brilliant, generous, and tragically selfless. He had won the war of currents, but in doing so, he had surrendered his fortune. The system he created, the very current that powers our world today, would become the standard for generations to come. Yet the man who made it possible would never see the rewards of his victory. As AC spread across America, lighting homes and cities, Tesla continued to dream beyond it. He saw electricity not as a commodity, but as a universal force that could be harnessed to uplift all humanity. While others built companies, he built visions vast, impossible, and beautiful. But the world is not kind to dreamers. As the lights of the fair faded and the applause died away, the forces of industry turned their gaze elsewhere. The age of wonder was giving way to the age of profit. And Tesla, the man who had electrified the world, was about to find himself standing alone in the shadows once again. After conquering the war of currents, Nikola Tesla might have rested. He could have capitalized on his fame, built an empire, and lived as one of the richest men in the world. But that was never his nature. Tesla's victories only fueled greater ambitions. Electricity, to him, was not the end of invention but its beginning. He dreamed of a world where power was limitless, wireless, and free, where the earth itself became a generator of energy for all humanity. While industrialists like Edison and Westinghouse focused on patents and profits, Tesla turned his gaze toward the cosmos. He believed that the Earth was a living conductor, pulsing with natural frequencies that could be tapped and transmitted without wires. He envisioned towers that would send energy through the atmosphere, allowing anyone, anywhere, to draw from it. No fuel. No wires. No limits. It was the purest expression of his philosophy that nature's power belonged to everyone. In 1901, with the financial backing of J. P. Morgan, one of the most powerful men in the world, Tesla began constructing a massive tower on Long Island, New York. It was called Wardenclyffe. To the public, it was described as a wireless communication system that could send messages across the Atlantic. In truth, Tesla's plans were far more ambitious. He intended for Wardenclyffe to transmit not only messages but energy itself to make the Earth hum with power, to eliminate dependence on coal and cables forever. At first, Morgan was intrigued. But when he learned that Tesla's system could deliver electricity freely, without meters or profit, his enthusiasm faded. The great financier was a man of commerce, not idealism. "If anyone can draw on this power," he reportedly asked, "where do we put the meter?" Funding stopped almost overnight. Without money, construction slowed to a crawl. Tesla pleaded, explained, promised, but the world's financial titans had turned their backs. They saw no profit in a dream that gave power away. As debts mounted, workers left, and the towering skeleton of Wardenclyffe began to rust under the coastal air. Yet Tesla refused to surrender. He walked the site daily, gazing up at his creation with a mix of pride and despair. He believed that the Earth's magnetic field could carry power across continents. In his mind, he could already see the glow of lights in distant villages, powered by the resonance of the planet itself. But that vision remained trapped in his imagination. The tower never fulfilled its purpose. In 1917, years after Tesla had abandoned it, the U.S. government ordered Wardenclyffe demolished. Its metal was sold for scrap. The tower that might have changed the course of human civilization was reduced to rubble, its dream buried beneath the sands of time. Tesla, meanwhile, continued to dream alone. He spoke of machines that could draw energy from the air, devices that could communicate with other planets, and technologies that defied the limits of science. The world called him eccentric, even mad. But he was not mad. He was simply too far ahead. While Edison built companies that multiplied his wealth, Tesla built ideas that transcended his age. His dream of free energy was more than a technical goal. It was a moral statement. He believed that knowledge and progress should liberate humanity, not enslave it to profit. And though his dream was crushed by greed and disbelief, the echo of it would never fade. In the ruins of Wardenclyffe, a new question lingered, one that would outlive both men. What would the world look like if Tesla's dream had come true? While Tesla's dream crumbled in silence, Thomas Edison's empire only grew louder. By the dawn of the 20th century, Edison was no longer just an inventor, he was an institution. His name was etched into textbooks, his face into newspapers, and his companies into the foundations of American industry. The Wizard of Menlo Park, as he was called, had become the embodiment of the American dream, the self-made man who turned sparks into fortune. Edison's laboratories buzzed with workers, engineers, and scientists, all pursuing the next great breakthrough under his banner. Phonographs, motion pictures, batteries, his name was stamped on all of them. Even when he did not invent something himself, his companies ensured that his signature would define it. To the world, Edison was progress made flesh. He had mastered not only invention but also the machinery of fame. He understood that innovation was not enough. You had to own the story around it. Tesla, meanwhile, had fallen from the spotlight. The newspapers that once praised him now treated him as a curiosity, a strange recluse who spoke of impossible machines and cosmic forces. He moved from one hotel to another, his fortunes dwindling, his friends and investors fading away. The man who had given the world alternating current now struggled to pay his bills. He spent long nights in hotel rooms overlooking the city he had helped illuminate. From his window, He could see the glow of electric lights stretching to the horizon, powered by the very systems he had created. The world below lived within his genius, yet few remembered his name. Edison's fame had become immortal, while Tesla's brilliance flickered in obscurity. As the years passed, Tesla's experiments grew stranger and more isolated. He fed pigeons in the park, speaking to them softly as if they were his only companions. He claimed to understand them, even to communicate with them. To outsiders, he appeared eccentric, perhaps even lost. But within his mind, he was still working, still imagining new worlds, machines that could harness cosmic rays, transmit thoughts, and defy gravity itself. Edison, ever the businessman, continued to thrive. He courted investors, built factories, and accumulated wealth. When he died in 1931, the world mourned him as a national hero. Presidents sent tributes, newspapers ran special editions, and factories dimmed their lights in his honor. His name became a symbol of ingenuity and perseverance, enshrined in the very fabric of American identity. Tesla lived on quietly, overshadowed and forgotten. His inventions had changed everything, yet his life was reduced to whispers and footnotes. Still, he never expressed resentment. He once said, "I do not care that they stole my idea. I care that they do not have any of their own." As his health declined, so did his fortunes. He wandered from hotel to hotel, his bills often paid by sympathetic friends who remembered the man he once was. The same world that had celebrated his genius now saw only the eccentric old man feeding pigeons on a park bench. The irony was profound. Edison, the man who sought control, achieved immortality through commerce and power. Tesla, who sought to free humanity, became a prisoner of his own imagination. Yet, in the quiet of his isolation, he never lost faith in his vision. He once told a journalist, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." Those words, spoken in solitude, would prove prophetic. Though Edison's empire dominated his time, Tesla's ideas would outlive them all. The wireless technologies, renewable systems, and innovations of the digital age would one day trace their lineage back to the man who sat alone in a hotel room, dreaming of a world still waiting to be born. When Nikola Tesla died in 1943, alone in his room at the New Yorker hotel, the world barely noticed. Newspapers gave him a few lines of tribute, calling him an eccentric inventor of the past. No grand funeral, no monuments, no great honors. The man who had once dreamed of lighting the world slipped quietly into the shadows of history. But as time passed, his story refused to stay buried. In the days following his death, government agents entered his room and seized his papers. Trunks filled with blueprints, journals, and strange instruments were taken away under the pretext of national security. Officially, they were to be examined for anything that could aid wartime research. Unofficially, rumors spread that Tesla had been working on technologies far beyond his time: a death ray, wireless energy weapons, even machines capable of splitting the earth. None of these claims were ever proven, yet they added to the growing myth of Tesla as the prophet of lost knowledge. As decades passed, the world began to rediscover him. Scientists who had once dismissed his eccentricity began to realize how far ahead of his era he truly was. His patents laid the groundwork for the radio, radar, X-rays, remote control, and countless technologies that define the modern age. Concepts he spoke of: wireless communication, global energy transmission, even smartphones became realities long after his death. In the popular imagination, Tesla transformed from a forgotten inventor into a symbol of the visionary genius unappreciated in his own time. He became a figure of mystery and inspiration, a man who had glimpsed the future and paid the price for it. Conspiracy theorists claimed his inventions were suppressed, that the world powers feared the free energy he sought to create. Whether true or not, these stories reflected something deeper: the idea that Tesla represented humanity's lost potential, the dreamer silenced by greed. Meanwhile, Edison's legacy evolved differently. His name adorned companies, awards, and textbooks. He became the patron saint of invention, the face of practical genius. Yet, as history looked closer, a more complex truth emerged. Edison's brilliance was undeniable, but so was his ruthlessness. He was a master of systems, patents, and power, while Tesla was a master of imagination and wonder. One built the world as it is, the other envisioned the world as it could be. In recent years, Tesla's name has risen from the footnotes of history to become a cultural icon. He is celebrated not just as an inventor, but as a symbol of what it means to dream beyond the limits of the possible. His ideas have inspired filmmakers, scientists, and entrepreneurs alike. Even a modern electric car company now bears his name, carrying his legacy into the future he once imagined. Yet myths still cling to him. Some say he built a machine that could contact other planets. Others believe he discovered a limitless energy source that governments covered up. While history cannot confirm these tales, they reveal something important: that Tesla's story transcends fact. It has become a mirror of human aspiration, a reminder that progress always walks the line between brilliance and madness. In truth, Tesla's greatest invention was not a machine, but a vision. A belief that science could unite humanity, not divide it. That the forces of nature were not meant to be owned, but understood. And though the world took a different path, the echoes of his dream still hum beneath our every light, every signal, every wireless connection that binds us together. As time rewrote history, it became clear that Tesla had not lost the war of currents. He had simply been waiting for the world to catch up. It was January of 1943. In a quiet corner of the New Yorker hotel, Nikola Tesla sat alone in room 3327. The once celebrated visionary who had dreamed of lighting the entire planet now lived surrounded by the hum of his own solitude. He was old, frail, and forgotten. His suit, once elegant, was worn thin. Around him were stacks of papers, drawings of impossible machines, and letters that were never answered. Outside, the city glowed with electric light, the very force he had once promised would free mankind. Inside, the man who gave that light to the world was dying by it, unrecognized and penniless. Tesla passed away quietly, his body discovered 2 days later by a maid. He had no family, no fortune, and no fame left to his name. Yet in that small room, history's current shifted in ways no one could see. Down the street, the world still bore Edison's imprint, the glowing logos, the corporate empires, the textbooks that declared him the father of modern electricity. His inventions had made him immortal in his lifetime. But time, that silent judge, had other plans. In the years that followed, the truth began to surface. Scientists revisited Tesla's patents, his notebooks, his wild predictions. They realized that the same man who had died in obscurity had predicted technologies that would define the next century. Wireless communication, remote control, renewable energy. Even the modern smartphone carried traces of his vision. Ideas that once seemed the ramblings of a dreamer became blueprints for the digital age. Edison's DC systems faded into history, replaced entirely by Tesla's AC current, which became the foundation of global power distribution. Every light that flickered in every home, every factory that roared to life, every city skyline glowing at night, all of it bore the fingerprint of Nikola Tesla's mind. The man who had been dismissed as impractical had, in the end, powered the modern world. It was a quiet victory, but a profound one. The balance of history had shifted. The same newspapers that once ignored his death began to print his name again. The same public that once mocked his experiments began to celebrate his genius. Statues rose in his honor, books were written, and the world finally began to understand the magnitude of what it had lost. Tesla had not lived to see it, but his dream had survived him. The dream of a connected world, of energy flowing freely through invisible space, was no longer fantasy, it was the foundation of modern life. The internet, wireless communication, renewable power, all were children of his vision. In the grand arc of history, Edison had built the world's first electric empire. But Tesla had built the invisible architecture of the future. His victory was not measured in wealth or fame, but in legacy, a legacy that transcended time, invention, and even his own mortality. The war of currents had ended long ago, but the current of his ideas still flowed. It hums in every device we charge, in every light we switch on, in every signal that crosses the air. The world may have forgotten him once, but it can never live without him again. Tesla's light, though dimmed in life, burns eternal in the pulse of our modern age. History often remembers the victors, but it rarely remembers the visionaries. Thomas Edison built an empire that shaped the economy of his time. Nikola Tesla built ideas that shaped the imagination of all time. One conquered the present, the other conquered the future. Edison's world was one of ownership, patents, and profit, a reflection of the industrial age that defined America's rise. Tesla's world was ethereal, bound not by wires or walls, but by the limitless energy of nature itself. He dreamed of a humanity unchained, where knowledge and power flowed freely, where inventions served not the wealthy few but every soul on earth. Today, we live in a world that bears both their marks. Our light bulbs, our power grids, our cities owe their existence to their rivalry. But it is Tesla's invisible hand that reaches into the heart of our modern life, into every wireless signal, every satellite, every spark of renewable energy. The same current that once divided them now unites the world they helped create. In the end, their story is more than a tale of invention. It is a mirror held up to humanity itself, a reminder that progress is born not from comfort, but from conflict, from the clash of ambition and vision. Edison showed us what man can build with determination. Tesla showed us what man can dream with imagination. As night falls and the world glows with light, it is worth remembering that every flicker, every hum of electricity, is a whisper from their war. A silent tribute to the men who fought to give us the modern world. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the noise of machines and the glow of cities, Tesla's dream still hums across the earth, a dream that the power that fuels the stars could one day belong to everyone.